Starting the day I take the oath of office, I will rapidly drive prices down, and we will make America affordable again. We're going to make it affordable again.
Well, maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30, you know? And maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally.
How it started, how it's going. Trump made a lot of promises for his White House return. So how does his first 100 days stack up against other former presidents? We've got just the man to discuss this with, our friend, historian Jon Meacham. He's the Rogers Chair in the American Presidency at Vanderbilt University. Sir, your assessment of the first 100 days.
Well, it's an answer to what we think of as the first 100 days in the presidential vernacular. Franklin Roosevelt, who became president at a time of enormous crisis for capitalism and for democracy. And he tried to build our way out of it in those 100 days. This is, in some ways, a retort, which is an attempt to take apart a good bit of the not just the domestic order, but the international order that has been in place not simply in the Roosevelt years, but really all the way through the Obama years. And there was an extraordinary bipartisan consensus, not necessarily about the details of policy, but certainly about the basic role, the efficacy, the integrity of institutions. And we're seeing a quite targeted, and we shall soon find out how effective an assault on those institutions.
So you layer on to what is essentially the roadmap set out by Project 2025 to deconstruct the administrative state and slash a lot of the programs you just talked about. And then you layer on Donald Trump's own idiosyncrasies and preferences. You have 3 defense officials telling NBC News that the administration is planning a huge celebration for the Army and President Trump's birthday on June 14th, which could include military vehicles and aircraft. And it comes as Trump is floating the idea of renaming Veterans Day to focus on our military victories. As you know well, sir, only Congress has the authority to create or change a federal holiday. When you put that all together, what does that tell you about where he sees his next 100 days going?
Well, he sees his next 100 days the way he's seen his last X number of days in life, which is that it is about him. It's not about us. It's not about we the people. It's not about a world in which we try to fulfill the implications of the Declaration of Independence. And this is not some reflexively partisan anti-Trump point. Mm-hmm. It's simply the case. And we don't do ourselves any favors. We aren't, I think, doing our jobs as citizens if we don't call them as we see them. And what we've seen for the last decade, and it's now been a decade, is that we are living in an age of Trump. There's no question about that. He has set the terms of the debate, and many people are defined now by their reaction to the terms he has set. And I think without any fear really of serious contradiction, I think we can say that he is taking a cult of personality. He has used that to take over a major political party, and he is now in his second term of trying to make the world in his image, as opposed to an image where we can all figure out a way to live lives of prosperity and purpose. And it's a remarkable thing. No American president has ever held this kind of grip, has ever had this kind of grip on the American imagination. And I don't like saying things are unprecedented. It's against my business model. But in this case, it is unprecedented.
It is, in fact, unprecedented. And I think about your point about how his first 100 days are a retort to FDR's first 100 days and how there was sort of a building. And here we've seen a deconstruction. The question I keep coming back to, Jon Meacham, is what it would take to rebuild what has already been deconstructed, right? What a post-Doge America, what a post-deconstructing of the global order looks like and requires of America and Americans.
It's a great question. And the way I go through every day now is trying to figure out what of what we're seeing has the likeliest chance to be dispositive precedent, which sounds fancy, but what do we, in this climate, what is seasonal and what's chronic? And we just don't quite know yet. We haven't really faced, I think, what will be the defining crisis, which will be the president either accepting a contrary decision, likely from the Supreme Court, on an issue of great significance, or trying to reject it and trying to defy it. And that moment is coming. You know, the word crisis comes from the Greek vernacular about healthcare. Crisis is the moment in a disease where a patient lives or dies. And don't want to be overly hyperbolic on a Friday evening, but we will have a crisis for the rule of law, I think, before this year is out. And here's hoping that the institutions, the judges, the lawmakers, and the citizens hold on to that rule of law, no matter what their impulses at the moment might be.
I appreciate that you didn't want to sound too fancy, but then gave me the etymology of the word crisis. John Meacham, as always, thank you so much for being with us.